Today on the Commander's Report mailbag, I'm answering your questions on the burgundy and gold. Can't wait to do it with you guys here. Pause. And let's get into the questions before I say something else. Make sure you click that subscribe button right now. If you haven't already, to join the most interactive Commanders fan community right here on YouTube. Really do appreciate all of your guys' support. We try to give you guys a platform here to have your voices heard on these weekly mailbags. And all you got to do is join us for our Commander's Report live shows on Thursdays, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So without further ado, I'll pause and open it up for questions, starting with the CEO of Chat Sports here, James Yoder, coming in with predict Jayden Daniels' passing and rushing stats this season. It's tough, man, because, here's the thing. The offensive line is going to be I think it's going to be bad, personally. I don't really feel like you have a lot of good options in there, and when you have a young quarterback under pressure a lot, things might look bad. But really, when it comes to Jayden, I mean, could we get up to 20 touchdown passes? I mean, I like him. I like him as a player. I think that he's relatively polished. He's going to have Terry McLaurin, who's awesome with those slot fades. I'll go 20 touchdowns. Yards, I have no idea. Interceptions, I think he'll probably throw some interceptions. 13 interceptions? Is that a fair number right there? It's going to be interesting to see how Jayden Daniels does, especially if this offensive line stinks. That's probably my best projection right there, Mr. James Yoder. Then we got Jayden Fan Club here. Says, I heard Marshon Lattimore may be available via trade. Is that something you think Washington could consider? No. I want them to get Stephon Gilmore, man. I think that he'd be a perfect fit. I think he'd be a perfect mentor for Emmanuel Forbes because he played in this defense, right? He played in this defense with Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr., who was his secondary coach. He knows this system backwards and forwards. Now, does he want to play for a team that's rebuilding? Probably not. But if you could get Gilmore, that'd be awesome. When it comes to Lattimore, they're going to want a high draft pick for him. This is a rebuilding team. You have to give him a new contract. I just don't see that being a potential fit. I've been wrong before, though. Let me know. What say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Would you trade a mid-round pick for Marshon Lattimore? By mid-round, I'm talking third to fourth round, okay? So give me a yes or give me a no for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time and give me a yes or no down there in the comments. Excuse me. Got one from IQ Barbecue. Says, I can't imagine Adam Peters not signing additional offensive line and defensive end help in the next wave of free agency. We have $43 million in cap space, and he has to know those positions we essentially ignored in the draft. I mean, you'd hope so, IQ. You'd hope so. But then again, this is the same guy that traded down with the Philadelphia Eagles and handed them Cooper DeJean, right? So, I mean, I hope Adam sees these things and there are still good tackle options or decent tackle options, I should say. And there's still some pretty decent edge options. 1-year contract, what do you have to lose if you're the Washington Commanders, right? You got to protect your quarterback and you have to attack opposing quarterbacks. And right now, the guys that you have just aren't going to cut it at the National Football League level. So, 1-year contract, take a gamble on some of these 1-year flyer guys. They're going to be free agents again in 2025. It's no skin off your butt here, man. So why not? Go out and make some more moves, Adam Peters, please. Then we got one from Blake Aarons, and he says, Commanders, what is the biggest key for Jayden Daniels this year? Biggest key for him, it's interesting here, Coop, because, there's a lot of keys to a rookie's success, right? There's supporting cast, there's the way that they develop their mental processing, there's accuracy, there's adjusting to the speed of the game. I think that the biggest key, okay, out of all the things, and this isn't the only factor, okay, so don't come at me saying that this is the only thing he needs to work on. He needs to protect his body better. And he needs to get bigger. Those are the two things that I want to see Jayden Daniels do. I want to see him get bigger, and in terms of his body, he needs to fill out that frame, that 6'3 plus frame, and he needs to protect his body better when he's rushing the football. Because last year in the SEC, he was looking like Roadrunner some of these times, man, getting hit and flying all over the place and fumbling the football in some of these big hits that he took. He needs to learn to slide. He needs to learn to give up his body. He needs to learn how to take 8 yards and a first down instead of trying to get a touchdown on every single play. Of course, you got all these other things. You got to build chemistry, all these different things. You got to get rid of the football quickly. But those are really the two big ones for me heading into year one. So before we get to the rest of the questions here on the Commanders Report Live mailbag, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the Prize Picks app today and use our code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100 today. And Prize Picks has specials, guys, for new and returning users alike for the start of the MLB season. When you head on over to prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the Prize Picks app today. Football season's been over for a while. NFL draft season is now over, but the action on the diamond is just heating up. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your baseball knowledge into serious cash. That is, if you really know ball. The 2024 MLB season is now off and running, and you can pick more or less right now to make some money from the comfort of your couch while you watch your favorite team play every single night. Prize Picks is super simple to play. All you have to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and then watch the winnings roll in. Get started now if you haven't already at prizepicks.com/CLNS and get a first-time deposit match up to $100 when you use our code CLNS. A big shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's edition of the Commanders Report, and you can pick more or you can pick less. It's that easy with our friends at Prize Picks. Got one from Ghost of DS here. It says, are the new Commanders owners better than me? Yes, if this is the ghost of Dan Snyder, 100%. We're glad you're out of the league, man. We're glad that you have nothing to do with this franchise anymore. Hopefully next, a new team name and new branding so we get rid of the lasting legacy of Dan Snyder for this franchise. Who's with me on that? Okay, now let's go to Twin23. It says, I know you're not the biggest fan of Kliff Kingsbury. How do you feel about this offense now that we know Daniels will be the one running it? I feel a lot better, Twin, okay? I think that Jayden Daniels is relatively polished. Footwork's really good. Clean throwing mechanics. Gets to his third and fourth read in his progression relatively consistently. And I think that that's a lot of good stuff to work with. Then when you add the rushing ability, that just adds a whole nother level of electricity and dynamicism? Is that a word? Dynamism to his game. Thank you so much, Producer Coop. But anyway, man, Kliff Kingsbury needed a guy like that because I just don't think he's very good at developing quarterback talent. Kyler has always been talented, and that's the guy that people usually point to. If it's not him, it's Patrick Mahomes, and he was super raw coming out of Texas Tech. Right? He had 3 years to mold him, and he didn't really do anything with him. So I don't think Kliff Kingsbury is particularly good at developing quarterbacks, but I think, in the right system here, and I do think Jayden Daniels fits in this system quite nicely, I think it can be successful. Kyler Murray was an MVP candidate within this system. He's an extremely talented, mobile quarterback. Guess what Jayden Daniels is? He's a relatively polished, highly talented, mobile quarterback. So I do think with this spread system, it's going to accentuate Daniels' ability to run the football, especially up the middle, and it's going to force defenses to have zone eyes on him all the time. They're not going to be able to play a lot of man coverage against this offense, which gives Kliff Kingsbury and the Commanders' offense an instant advantage. Now let me know down there in the comments section, percent chance that Jayden Daniels wins Offensive Rookie of the Year. Put it on a scale of 0 to 100 for me down there in the comments section. Honestly, guys, I don't think it's necessarily that high. I think he's going to be under pressure a lot. I think he's going to show a lot of good things, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and there's going to be a lot of optimism with this year. But I think that there's other players in better situations that are probably going to put up better stat lines. So, you know what? I'll give him a 10% shot to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year trophy. In terms of my favorite, that's got to be Caleb Williams with the Chicago Bears. Then we'll go to Piggy the Pug. Says Daniels is like RG3. I completely disagree. I mean, I can see why you're gonna, have those comparisons. Number 2 picks, rushing quarterbacks. One injury could potentially quote unquote derail their careers. But honestly, I think Jayden is a lot more polished as a passer than RG3 was coming out, and I think that if he were to have a similar type of injury that Robert had here in Washington, I think that he would be able to survive as a passer, whereas RG3 really relied on his athleticism, wasn't much of a pocket passer, couldn't make that adjustment. I think that Jayden does have a particular skill set with the clean throwing mechanics, with the pocket footwork, with the mental processing ability. I think that I just don't see him being the next RG3 here in Washington. Then we got one from Bob Meyers here. It says, updated Commanders record prediction for 2024 now that the draft is over. Good question here, Bob. what do we say here, Coop? 6-7 wins? I'd be relatively happy with that as long as Jayden Daniels is making progress throughout his first season. And as long as this team as a whole is making progress throughout the course of a season, right? Jordan McGee starts looking pretty good at inside linebacker. Brandon Coleman starts to show some flashes on the offensive line, right? Yeah, the chemistry starts to get built between Jayden and his receivers, all these different things. I want to see this team be competitive, especially towards the end of the season. Now, I'm not expecting playoffs. I'm not expecting a Super Bowl run. If they make the playoffs, great. I mean, Dan Quinn is one hell of a coach, man. If he's able to turn things around on this offensive line, get this defense rolling, and, Jayden Daniels is a very talented quarterback. So, who knows what can happen, but I think on paper with the trenches not looking too great for the Commanders outside of defensive tackle, I'm just not sure if they have the foundation in place to really be a success in this league, but they are on their way, in my opinion, and I do have hope for the future. So how many wins will the Washington Commanders get in 2024? Let me know down there in the comment section what you guys are feeling. Do you think they get close to that double-digit win mark? Do you think they get close to a playoff berth? Let me know down there in the comment section what you're expecting from the Commanders in 2024. All right, make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I appreciate everybody that submitted questions on this week's Commanders Report mailbag. I really do appreciate all of your support. Make sure you join us next Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our live show so you can get your questions on next week's mailbag.